Hey, and welcome to episode 41 of the Podcasting Simplified podcast. Today, we're going to take a close look at the Blue Yeti microphone, and we'll try to figure out if it's a good choice for you. So, the Blue Yeti, it really works great in many different recording situations and offers a ton of useful features for the price. But it kind of comes at a cost, and it may not be for everyone. So, it's actually been one of the most popular USB microphones for the last several years at least. And we're going to take a look at the features, sound quality, and let you know who it's best for. Plus, we'll also take a look at some of the best accessories for it towards the end as well. So the first feature that I want to highlight is the different polar patterns. And what that means is that you can configure how the microphone picks up sound. So, for instance, a lot of podcast microphones come with a cardioid mode, which mostly picks up sound from the front, which is perfect for speaking. And so that's the first mode that the Blue Yeti has, is the cardioid. It also has an omnidirectional mode, which picks up sound equally from all different directions. And this is great for things like conference calls, or maybe if you're doing a group chat and you only have one microphone, you can put it right in the middle of the desk and it'll pick up everyone. But it won't sound as good as the cardioid mode, and typically you'll be a little farther away when you're in this mode. So I wouldn't really recommend it for podcasting, but if you need to do a conference call or a chat, it will work great and sound much better than, say, a laptop computer. The next mode is bidirectional. So this is great for interviews, although I really wouldn't recommend using one microphone for this, but you can do it. And so it'll pick up sound from the front and back. So it works great if you're sitting right across from someone and you want to do a chat, you only have Blue Yeti, that would work great. And the last mode is stereo. So this gives you a kind of a clear separation of the left and right channels, and really works best for maybe recording instruments. And you can use it for voice, but you probably would want to use cardioid for that as well. So it gives you quite a few options, which isn't, typical in a USB microphone. So some of that flexibility is nice, but it may not be necessary. And when I first got the Blue Yeti maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and the only mode I really used was the cardioid. So just something to think about there. Some other features: it has a headphone jack and volume control. So no matter if you get a USB microphone, no matter which one you get, you want to make sure it has a headphone jack so you can monitor your audio directly through the microphone instead of going through the computer, which adds a little bit of a delay, and then you talk, and a split second later you hear it and it just sounds weird. So you want to make sure you get a headphone jack. And volume knob allows you to adjust how loud your headphones are, which is nice that it's all on board. You don't have to mess with software. Also, along those lines is gain control. So this controls how sensitive the microphone is, how loud it gets. And there's a dial on the back that lets you control that, which is really nice because a lot of USB microphones don't have this. So you have to adjust the gain in software. So it's nice to be able to, maybe someone starts getting really loud, you can reach over and quickly turn it down so your microphone doesn't peak and overload, and then it sounds really bad and you can't fix it later for the most part. And it also has a mute button, so it has when it's armed and recording, the button is solid red. If you hit mute, it starts flashing, so it's a nice visual indicator that your microphone is either armed or muted, which is nice, and this is not found on a lot of USB mics. So kind of cool feature there. And USB, so it's plug and play. You don't need any software or drivers, although Blue did come out with some software we'll talk about in a sec that is kind of cool. But and also it comes with a stand, which is actually pretty solid and nice, but it's really not tall enough to kind of get it in the right position. So I'd highly recommend some first or third party accessories that you can get, and we'll talk about those at the end. And I just want to highlight that the Yeti is a really heavy microphone. And because of that, it doesn't work with just any microphone stand. And then if you also add a shock mount, that adds a bunch more weight. So it gets quite heavy. And if you get a cheap boom arm, it won't hold it up. I've tested it out and you'll just run into trouble. So just something to be aware of there. So let's quick touch on the Blue Sherpa software. So it's a free desktop software. It lets you update any of their USB microphones, not just the Yeti, but also maybe the Nano or I don't know what else, the Snowball, something like that. And so with the Yeti microphone, I was able to update the firmware. You can actually control the gain, your headphone monitoring volume, and mute all right from the software. So it's kind of cool. If you want to be able to do that, they have built-in software, get updates and control everything from there if you want. So my final thoughts on the Yeti is that even though it's really popular with beginners, it was actually the first microphone that I bought, so I kind of fell victim to this marketing. I actually find it performs much better in the hands of someone who has more experience with audio recording. So they know how to handle a condenser microphone that's really sensitive and how to, position it in their room properly and things like that. So it also, there's a ton of pictures you'll see of people using it incorrectly. So they actually created a little graphic that shows you how or where to speak into the microphone. It's a side address. So you speak into the side of the mic and not an end address like a lot of dynamic microphones where you speak into the tip of it. So that's one thing you just need to be aware of. Make sure you speak into the correct part of it to get the best audio quality. And then I really think, so if you want the flexibility to record in all the different polar patterns and have that onboard gain control, and crucially, you have a quiet space to record, then the Yeti is a great choice. But if that's not the case, you don't need all the different pickup patterns. I would not recommend the Yeti. And there are other USB microphones. I've mentioned them before, specifically dynamic microphones like the ATR 2100 USB is a great budget choice that you can get. Has the headphone input for monitoring and sounds great. It's light, will work on any stand. And because of the sensitivity with the Blue Yeti, no matter where you record, I highly recommend pairing it with a shock mount and a good quality boom arm. So just a couple additional items that will add to the cost that you should keep in mind. So now we'll go into the accessories here, and they actually they also sell a bundle, the Yeti caster bundle. So it comes with the mic, a boom arm, and a shock mount. And I think you save about $50 by getting all those together. But we'll go into all three of these. So the first one is the Blue Radius 3 shock mount. And what this does is prevent sound that you don't want from traveling into the mic. Things like typing, tapping on a table, or bumping your desk are all amplified because that sound doesn't have to travel through the air. It travels right through the microphone into the capsule and will sound really loud if you don't have a shock mount. So there have been a few versions of the official Radius over the years, and the latest is the Radius 3, which is actually smaller and lighter than the Radius 2, and I think it looks a little better. So nice upgrades that they've made over time there. And just know that if you do get a shock mount, you have to get a stand or boom arm in order to attach it, which leads us right into the next recommendation here. The Blue Compass boom arm is a relatively new item from Blue, and it's a nice boom arm. It's it'll definitely hold the weight of the Yeti with the shock mount, and it's has a little clamp that you screw onto your desk. You can get it right and get the mic in the perfect position really easily with one of these. And I really think a boom arm is the best investment that I have made for my podcast studio. So highly recommend the Blue Compass or any quality boom arm. And then the last one is last accessory here is a Wintech PopGuard 2000. And this is something that just sits over the microphone and prevents plosives. So if you put your hand in front of your mouth and say, I want a PopGuard, that P sound will overload the mic if you're talking right into it. And one of those things that you can't fix later in post and will sound really bad. So highly recommend one of those as well. And I think that rounds out the Blue Yeti review. I hope that was helpful, and we'll see you in the next episode.